Hello and welcome to another installment of the Dugout Podcast. I'm Andrew, joined by Marissa, and we're back with plenty,
Back again.
plenty to talk about. Nice shirt, Marissa. I realized that since Chelsea
My God.
have attained some positive results of late, the colours come out.
This was the quickest thing that I got to my hand.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Okay?
If you say so. But we all know
Coincidence.
that. We all know you're glowing after.
No,
You know.
honestly, the thing is, right, when I put this shirt, I was like, that means Andrew not going to only put this shirt because of the results. But, there's some days I like to feel the comfort of the snug fit on me. And I enjoy the fit of the shirt and everything.
Whatever you say. I really want to see, right? Which one of us will be the first to wear our colours after a defeat?
It'd probably
on
be
your-
me. It'd probably be me,
You feel so?
Yeah. I'm brave enough.
We'll see. So, having said that, let's get right into it. We had a very pulsating, frantic game on Sunday. Chelsea hosting the defending champions Manchester City, and the game ended in a 4-4 draw.
I think you should go first. I always going first on Chelsea, so you should go first this time.
Oh Lord! All right, where do I start?
Let me put you in the hot seat.
Sure. I enjoyed the game. Like I said, pulsating, frantic, desperate at times from both teams.
Cackle.
In the sense that I felt as though nobody was really able to, control the game and dictate the flow. It was a game that was kind of up and down, and it flowed back and forth, and it could have gone either way. Even though, like for example, even though City took the lead from a penalty spot, and we'll talk about that decision in a minute. It felt like City didn't really get into their rhythm. Let me not say they didn't really get into their rhythm. Chelsea didn't allow them to get into their rhythm. I was really impressed with the midfield trio of Chelsea, full of energy in terms of Caicedo, Gallagher, and Enzo. And then, there were times that Caicedo found himself a bit too tight, and Bernardo and others were able to turn him a couple times, but he stuck with it. Obviously on occasion, Palmer came back into midfield as well and provided an extra body. So it felt like a game that City never really controlled and dictated. Yes, City at times were sloppy with the ball, but again, I put that down to Chelsea's intensity and tenaciousness in the tackle. Going back to that penalty call, though, that first one.
Before you get there, I do have to say thank you for that. I find that, like, before we came, I was telling you that I hate the narrative around Chelsea this season. When we do bad, we get crucified. When we do good, it's always down, the opponent wasn't good enough. Like, heard the same nonsense after the draw against Arsenal. That probably should have been a win. Heard it again with the whole thing about Spurs were the real winners on Monday night. And then even there were very few people giving Chelsea credit for the fact that City weren't at their best. I think in those big games, people need to acknowledge that Chelsea played well and didn't allow the other team to get into their stride. So I do have to commend you on actually giving us our credit for that.
Yeah, because like I said, City, even though City took the lead, it wasn't a case where I felt City was the clear dominant team in the game at that point. The decision, I know how you feel about the decision. I'll give my thought and then you can chime in.
Yes.
What was he saying? I might get the saying wrong, but I'll try it anyway. Okay.
Let me not go. Half a dozen of the other.
Exactly. 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. That's the saying I was looking for. Yeah. That's how it felt because to me, it was a foul on Haaland by Cucurella. I do get the complaint or the argument that, Haaland did initiate the tussling. And in some ways, he did foul Cucurella to begin with.
Yeah, because how did he get that advantage to get in front of him for Cucurella to then foul him?
It was a little tug on Cucurella to get in front of him, yes. But I always feel like, first thing, Haaland was never going to get the ball because Thiago Silva cleared it anyways. But
apparently that don't matter these days anymore.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But I felt that, again, as a defender, you have to have a bit more, notes about you and be clever. And with the cameras and everything, I feel like Cucurella should have, been wary of that a bit more. It's almost like he got suckered into a wrestling match. And when those things happen, then, more often than not, the decision more than lately goes with the attacker. And I felt that was the case there.
All right. So two things. One, when I watch, me, I watch several highlights of my games sometimes, especially when it's been a decent performance. I watch different highlights, different streams, with different commentary. Sorry. Nobody reacted to that incident when it happened.
Correct.
No commentator. There was also a bench cam that I watched today. Not even Pep reacted in that moment. When I compared Poch's reaction when Broya got brought down late on, compared to Pep reaction then, there was I don't think anybody except Anthony Taylor believed that was a penalty at the time.
Haaland appeal for it, obviously, as he would.
Obviously, attackers appeal for everything.
But the thing is, okay, I don't know if I would necessarily compare the two between Broja and because the stage of the game, it's completely different. You want something okay, you're gonna appeal.
But Pep has zero reaction though. Zero reaction when Haaland went down appealing for the penalty.
Right, like I said, what you're saying was again
6-1,
6-1, half a dozen of the other. I'll get it maybe next week.
So then in that case, if it's 6-1, half dozen another, it's okay to do nothing.
No, the thing, because like I'm sorry, I didn't mention that before, but the way I feel about it, that's what I said. It was a foul, but it's one of those ones that could have gone either way. And what I mean by that is, for example, like you said, let's say that the play happened, and the game went on. I don't even think VAR would have gone back and checked it, and even if they did, I don't think that VAR would have said, that's a clear and obvious error. Go back and look at it at the monitor. I don't believe that is the case. I believe, but it's one of those ones haven't been given because Cucurella has a prolonged tug of Haaland as he falls. I think it's one where VAR would say it's not clear and obvious.
Wasn't that prolonged, but okay.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Anyhow, it's one of those ones that you could feel harsh by, but by the letter of the law, I guess it's a foul. Haaland scored the penalty, but in Chelsea, it didn't stop Chelsea from playing. Chelsea bounced back. I can't remember. Who did you get the equalizer again?
Thiago Silva held it.
Oh yeah, corner. Right. And then right after that, then a mistake by Guardiola, where he couldn't start with his feet.
Yeah.
And Raheem Sterling to cross the ball for Sterling. And then it got back to somehow before halftime.
Defending.
Oh yes, the recycled corner. Yes,
which I think was genuinely probably one of the few mistakes we made in the game.
The thing with that is, like, I think Enzo was who was marking a Akanji at the corner, and then he pushed out. But he pushed out. The other defenders didn't push out.
Yeah, it's true.
And then it ends up that Rich James and Thiago Silva are essentially marking one guy.
Yeah.
And Akanji's by himself, and
free header.
Tucked it away.
Free header in stoppage time at halftime. Criminal.
Yeah, and then City, another tapping goal.
Yeah, that was a well-worked goal in my opinion. Although Caicedo, that you mentioned, got turned very easily in the build to that goal, but I thought that was probably one of City better attacks throughout the game.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty good. It was a typical City goal in my opinion.
Right.
And VAR tried the best to rule it out.
Yeah, because I didn't get the chat because
the ball was going in anyways.
It was going in anyways. Like the ball only touched Haaland's elbow after across the lane. What was the big hold up?
Well, it wasn't quite after, but it was going in anyways. His elbow didn't help it in. It was going in anyways. His elbow just happened to be there as it was going.
It was a legitimate goal. And then
just foolishness. Hold up the game for what? 2-3 minutes doing that nonsense?
I heard a theory that, these things will happen now because of the recent spate of mistakes.
Yeah, but
because they're trying to be extra careful.
But it doesn't mean they have to look at everything. It's
they're micromanaging in a sense.
I would have been happy.
We will argue that, but at the same time, like again, half a dozen. I'll get it next week. I'll get it next week.
Yeah, but I'd be happy 6-1.
6-1.
Half a dozen of another. I'd be happy if it was like, it was just after halftime, and it was like, seriously, guys. But come on, it wasn't. Come on, man. Don't re-referee the game, man. But then the equalizer came. I thought it was very, very good build-up play from Chelsea. Conor Gallagher got off a shot, and then Jackson stayed on side to tap in. That was probably a little poor from Edison, pushing it right back in the danger area.
No, it was poor. That was definitely poor.
Yeah.
He got pushed that way to the post.
It's true. But
but you know what? He almost got away with it. And this is the thing, because if you watch back the replay, when Gallagher took the shot, Ruben Diaz, who was not even in lane of the shot, slid to block the shot, and that's what. So when Edison actually parried the ball, he was on the floor, and that enabled Jackson to be the first to get there to dispatch the rebound. So I don't know, but Diaz, I guess, was panicking all game because then
it's true. The penalty, which we get to.
Penalty.
Then Gusto had a fantastic chance at 3-3.
Well, yes, he did.
Reese would have probably scored that.
I know you won't tell me so. I know you would like to. I know that you would like to believe that, but we will never know. That's the beauty of it, right?
But I do like how Poch is managing Reese's fitness, which is the reason we brought in such a astute second right back, so that we can manage Reese's fitness better. Because we all know he like a glass. But yeah, really, really good chance to make it 4-3, and then. What literally broke my heart, I was there sitting on the bed and I just did this. When that goal went in from Rodri, huge deflection. And at this time I'm thinking, Chelsea has to be the most unlucky side in the Prem. Like, oh my gosh, that was a tough one. Did you think that Thiago Silva made a mistake there by just wafting out his leg?
No, it just completely reactionary.
Reactionary, yeah.
Trying to block the shot. Obviously it wasn't, I guess, I don't want to say it was half committed, but I guess it wasn't the right. But those things happen. It wasn't the right motion out. Maybe a bit tired of a tired legs or fatigue or what's not. But that can happen.
Yeah. Then the penalty. Thought it was good play from Borja. For you.
I mean, okay. Before getting the penalty, right? And it's very hard to criticize City because they've been so good for the last 5 or 6 years. But we all know that City turned over the ball needlessly in the midfield, which allowed the other counter-attack, which then led to the ball, quick play going to Broja. Quick, incisive play. I think Jackson made a very good run.
Yeah,
after took Ruben Diaz away from the centre goal initially.
Yeah.
Where Sterling played the ball inside. And it's one of those ones where, I guess Diaz anticipates that he's going to shoot.
I'm trying to block it.
I tried to block it, And then, just momentum, you can't stop. You already committed the jump. So
wet.
Exactly. So you're going to hit the guy's foot. Definitely clear Stonewall penalty.
Yeah.
Chelsea still have this thing about them where even when they get a decision, they must argue. And I'm like, waste more time. Just talk yourself into the card or off the pitch rather. For any referee to decide that he can play another minute or two on top of that and you don't hit 10. Who knows? But
Jackson has more yellow cards than goals in the Premier League.
Something that you definitely need to work on that.
I mean, Poch has spoken about it, tried talking to him about it, but I mean, the man, it's something that, he's still only 22. I guess he raw, you could tell he's a passionate guy, but he really needs to stop getting these needless yellow cards.
The thing is, right, the thing that got me is like, okay, y'all got the penalty. Let the City players argue amongst themselves.
Yeah, don't get involved.
And wait until the penalty is taken.
Exactly.
So.
Get Cole time to think and settle your head. Fantastic penalty.
Yeah, definitely. Cool under pressure. Yeah, I've been impressed by him since he's moved. Because at City, he did get some minutes last season, and he looked good. Don't get me wrong, but you always wonder whether or not is the player, is it the Pep or City system that he's flourishing in because he's playing with such so many great players, and it looks like it's really him. So, still early days. We have to see if he's consistent. But on this form, I would not be surprised if he's included in the European Championship squad.
But what about Sterling, though? Why is Sterling continuously ignored by Southgate?
I don't even want to talk about Sterling. You want to know why? Because that would get me irate. Because I hate foolishness. Raheem Sterling, right, on his worst list, is better than, I would say, our bar one of the England wingers in that position. Sterling could play. Sterling's a baller. The only thing that I'd be more Sterling about is that in the final third, sometimes he lacks conviction, or he makes the wrong decision with the final pass. That's the only thing that lets Sterling down at times. But Raheem Sterling, in terms of talent, in terms of form right now, in terms of ability, his experience, he was your best player in the last European Championship. And I think he was unfortunate last season because he moved to Chelsea. We all know why, because he didn't want to become a big part player because he's only 28, right? So, he made a move. Chelsea was going through a period of upheaval, essentially.
And everybody had a tough season last season.
And not only that, he went to the World Cup. And he had the issue at home where he had to fly back. So he didn't lose his place or form for anybody who's wondering. He lost his place because he had to deal with family matter. Came back. England won the tournament, I think, maybe after that, in the next game. And then he had a couple of injuries in the back end of the season as well. So now he's regaining his form. Southgate is not picking him. And Southgate's argument, and this way I said it would get me irate. Southgate's argument is, who can I leave out?
Foolishness. Jarrett Boy. Marcus Rashford, who's having an awful season.
It's not even about that. I don't care if Marcus Rashford was having last year's season.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Rashford is not a better footballer than Raheem Sterling. Neither is Jared Bowen. I like Grealish, don't get me wrong, but I would put Sterling above Grealish. The only player in the England, 11, and it's still, again, I would put it above Sterling at this point because he's still a developing player. It's Phil Foden in terms of that wide attacking area. And maybe Bukayo Saka because Saka has been good since he broke into the national side anyways. But I think on talent, Sterling has to be one or two.
And my disappointment, well, not really disappointment, my disgust comes from he pits Calvin Phillips and Harry Maguire, and Jordan Henderson. And his argument is, these players have never let him down. Neither has Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling has always been a dependable player for England. So why now can he comfortably leave him out for players that are in poor form, but you continue to pick Calvin Phillips, who is barely kicking the ball for City? I don't get it.
And here's the thing as well. I think he's a bit fortunate in the sense that in the midfield area, yes, there might be a lack of genuine options. So it might be easier to take people like Phillips and those guys who aren't playing. Even in the centre half area, you could argue that for Maguire as well. Right? And like I said from the last time we spoke about Southgate on the show, I said Southgate just needs to be a man. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say that. But be honest about it.
Yeah.
Play it that way. And just say that, Maguire is my preferred option. Phillips is my preferred option. I'm taking them regardless of if they're starting games or not. I'm taking Jordan Henderson regardless of whether or not he's playing the Premier League or what we consider to be an elite league or Saudi Arabia. I've never watched Saudi football, so I don't know if it's elite or not. But I'm just saying.
But what about somebody like Ward-Prowse as well?
Yes, I've heard the argument about Ward-Prowse. Again, unlucky. And this is the thing. I'm not saying, because I'm not sure that Ward-Prowse is necessarily better than, or has more quality than necessarily Henderson or Phillips or whoever he picks, right? But what I would say about Ward-Prowse, again, why he should feel aggrieved is because he's been starting. And Calvin Phillips has not.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, playing well.
Yeah.
And Calvin Phillips has not. So it's probably a case that Southgate doesn't really fancy Ward-Prowse. But Gareth, you're doing rubbish by not picking Raheem Sterling.
Yeah.
I took the argument, like for example, last in national break where you didn't pick him, it was fine for me if you said, he's not getting back to fitness, I want to give him a bit more time. He's had the time.
Yeah.
And on talent, on quality, he should be there. Unless your argument comes out and says, well, I want to see new players because, But again, you're less than 12 months away from a tournament. I understand that we've already qualified. Got me saying we. I understand that they have already qualified, but
it's me too. I know you're fooling.
But is it really is not really the time to experiment wholesale and try to have a look at all these different players? Because then what inevitably happens is that on the EV tournament, essentially you're confused in your mind about who to select. And then we get all these, brainless decisions where players go and they shouldn't be there or what's not. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like Cole as much as anybody. I think he's been very impressive since he joined Chelsea, but no way should he have been called up to the England squad before Raheem Sterling. No way. I think it's craziness. It's craziness.
Correct.
So let's move on quickly to something we've been hinting at since we started back, Manchester United and their current situation. So what did they say? They said sixth in the league, which on the surface don't look too bad.
Great.
But when you look beyond the surface, Man United have been pretty poor this season. I think last week was the Copenhagen loss, right? They lost.
Correct.
They were 2 up. They were 2 up, went down to 10 men, and then completely capitulated. And they managed to get back to 3-2.
Right.
But then capitulated in that last 10 or so minutes. They've had some pretty poor results. Even when you look at the teams they've beaten, have they beaten anybody in top half? I don't think so. I think most of the teams they've beaten are in the bottom half.
I think you're correct.
Fulham, Luton, Sheffield, Wolves, Brentford, Burnley. Yeah.
They beat Brentford?
Yeah, the last two. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
Very luckily.
Nottingham Forest.
Forest, yeah. So it hasn't been a great season, and then you got off-field stuff.
Right.
They got potentially Sir Jim taking over. I hear it may happen this week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not taking over, but 25%.
Right, and he will be in charge of footballing operations.
I was gonna say. Then you got the Sancho saga that continued to rumble on.
Mm-hmm.
We had a little mini Rashford situation. I mean, much ado, but nothing with that one.
Right.
You even had you've had a lot of issues, but we want to focus on the on-field.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I asked this question, what you're going to say. I was going to ask, what is going on with Man United this season? But I know you're going to start off by saying, I said since last season that Man United weren't doing that well, blah, blah, blah. So the floor is yours.
Well, I said last season that they weren't playing that well.
Right.
They were kind of like grinding out results.
Yes.
Okay, so this part one of the deep dive, because I suspect we need another show to cover everything.
Yeah, go.
So this is part one of Man United's deep dive, or our assessment of Man United.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of on-the-field issues, right? For me, and this is not a blanket statement, I've thought about this, for a few years, looking at Man United. It seems like, I think they've sort of lacked a clear plan and a clear approach in terms of who the manager will be and what the philosophy of the club will be.
Mm-hmm.
So after Sir Alex retired, you brought David Moyes and gave him 8 months. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the transfer policy of Man United, in that David Moyes tenure, they brought in Fellaini, and that was a shambles as well, because I remember a lot of players that they were linked with that they were trying to get, turn it down. And there was a lot of, but at the last minute they got Fellaini, and then I think they got Juan Mata from Chelsea in the January window. He was gone by February. Cool. Then Giggs took over as temporary caretaker manager until the end of the season. And then they brought Van Gaal home for 2 years. I think he would have signed Schweinsteiger, Marcus Rojo, if I remember correctly, Angel Di Maria, and Memphis Depay.
Martial too? Martial? He signed
Martial as well. Right. And obviously I'm not going to remember all the players. I think he also signed the guy that used to play at Southampton, Sneijderlin, French midfielder.
Oh yeah, Morgan.
It's really good, I think.
Morgan Sterling.
Yes. They signed him as well. All right, 2 years, won the FA. I think he finished top 4, then he won the FA Cup and finished 5th in that season, and then they started him. Then they brought Jose. Jose brought in Eric Bailly, Lindelof, Zlatan came, Pogba came, Lukaku came. Not remember all the players, but those were guys that Luke Shaw can come at some point as well in that.
Before
though. Yeah.
Maria.
Okay, good. And then you brought in Ole. Ole brought in, who did Ole sign? Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
Sancho, Rafael Varane. Anybody else he signed that was notable?
He signed Fred, or Fred came with, was it Jose?
Hey, Fred came with Jose. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I forgot about Fred. Right. So, okay, but you get the point making. And then you finally have Lionel Ten Hag, who brought in Casemiro, Hoyen, Malacia, Anthony.
Mount.
Mr. Mount. Okay, I know you remember that one. All right, good. But the point I'm making, right, is that if you look at the composition of the squad, like I keep on saying, when Man U signed these players, nobody said to me, and I didn't think either, that these were bad players. But the squad is very unbalanced, right? And the one thing that they've gotten wrong, so for example, in terms of the personnel that you talk, it had goals in it, but the guys weren't playing well. And then you moved on some characters like Lukaku, for example. In defense, you had some guys who were underperforming, you had some guys who did relatively okay. And then in midfield, though, which is the biggest part of any team, in my opinion, or one of the biggest parts, you kind of have like a disjointed bunch where you can't really find a blame for them, right? To play the way in which you want to play. And I feel like that's the biggest problem in the sense that there's been too much change over short span, right? Too much upheaval, if you want to call it that. And I feel as though it's meant that, because if you look at the squad, I've heard over different social media, sites and stuff like that on the internet, people will say, man, you still have quality players and yada, yada, yada. But if you go through that squad, there's not a lot of genuine quality. Okay, if you look at the top end of the pitch, I've always had my doubts about Rashford in terms of if he can be, a top player. He's good, but can he be a top player? Have my doubts about that. And then in that, apart from Hoyen, who's again emerging, you don't have genuine quality in that front area. Martial obviously isn't the answer. And he clearly doesn't seem like the answer. Sancho hasn't done it. Then you have the midfield. I know how you felt about Pogba and other players, but remember I said to you, in repetition alone, but in terms of their performances, have they been doing it? They haven't. And in the midfield area right now, as presently constructed, you have Bruno. And if you ask me who else has genuine quality in that midfield, I like Eriksen. I always like Eriksen from Tottenham days, but I think Eriksen is past his best at this stage. He's like a helping hand, not necessarily should be the person necessarily starting for you week in, week out. Casemiro, there's a jury on that note. I will have to pay more close attention and, see if I agree with that, because it might just be a different form. And then in defense, I think what let him down is, like I said, last season, the defense was relatively solid because the fitness was there. Varane played a lot of games, Casemiro played a lot of games, Martinez played a lot of games. Luke Shaw also had a very good season last year. I think with the absences of those players, and the span of injuries, and then the changing of goalkeeper as well, who hasn't also is convinced either. I feel as if that's the way the team is struggling. But for me, the biggest problem that Man U has is that how do we want to play, and do we have the players to play that way? I think there's a plan, but again, like remember I said it after the game, I don't think the players are doing well enough to implement the pattern to play that, efficiently to beat a team like City.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned the players that played a lot last season. All of those players that you mentioned have, for one reason or other, had fitness problems this season. And it has obviously disrupted, because you call basically the first choice centre-back partnership in Martinez and Varane. The person that I really felt made a huge difference to Man United last season, Casemiro. And then Luke Shaw, who has had a good past couple of years. So it's like, I've been hearing a narrative going around from certain fan channels as well that Ten Hag is overplaying certain players. As a result, they're picking up injuries, and then they drop off in quality from those players. The next players also affects form. I mean, I could see it. But I also kind of agree with you about the squad. And when you were talking, I was saying, and I thought to myself, Man United currently reminds me of Chelsea a couple years ago. And I say that because I remember a couple weeks ago, before the Spurs and the City games, I was telling you that, to me, I am a Chelsea fan who is willing to be patient. Because for me, I could see the progress, I could see the progression. But not only that, I always felt like the club needed a change. The club needed a restart. Yes, you could criticize Bowley for how quickly he's done it. And yes, he's made some mistakes. But for me, there's a clear plan in terms of who they want to bring in, the profile of player they want to bring in, the character of person they want to bring in. Whereas with Man U, it just feels like what Chelsea were doing a few years ago, almost chasing star names without seeing how it fits.
Yes.
So you have a situation now with Mason Mount. I don't know why they signed Mason Mount, because Mason Mount claims his best position, I know you don't agree, but Mason Mount claims his best position is in the midfield, whereas at Chelsea it was more out wide and stuff, and he didn't like that. But where Mason Mount wants to play, your club captain primarily plays. I know there's the issue of depth and stuff, but Christian Eriksen can also play there. Why do you have three similarly type midfielders, all on, I think, relatively big wages for that one position? And really and truly, you only have Casemiro in a position that is desperately needed, because McTominay best position is not a holding midfielder either. Look at where he plays for Scotland.
They have Amrabat now, right?
Who is barely playing, which is another.
I think he got injury as well. He got injury when he came in. He had an injury when
he started.
Right, yeah.
But that's my thing. Ten Hag isn't even using. The only signing he's really using is Højlund. He brings on Anthony sparingly. Mount could barely get a look in. Amrabat been sitting on the bench to the last couple of games. Like, I don't know what's up there, but it's like you're chasing the big names without actually seeing how they fit. Anthony is another one. Yeah, he did well at Ajax from what I heard. But I never watched him play before he came to the Premier League. But so far, I haven't seen anything that impresses me.
You think with Anthony, this may sound farcical to say. But I think that Anthony tries to, if Anthony dribble you want, he's going to slow down, and you want to dribble you.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
That's our football deserves to be played on Westbury Passive. Seriously, cross the ball, It's more important Anthony and not the Flash.
Yeah.
That's my thing about Anthony. But again, I go back to midfield. For some reason, like the problem that I see with Man U's midfield is that they can't play through teams.
Yeah, and teams can play through them quite easily.
So they have to go around or go direct.
Yeah.
It seems to be a reluctance to necessarily go direct because I guess direct is called arcade football or something like that. Go direct. Liverpool goes direct a couple times every game. Trust me. You can go direct and then play the ball from there. And it seems like the most times that Man U looks effective is when they're playing counter-attack football, where they're playing transitional football, where they happen to press high and because the Saints don't always do that well, but they're able to, pitch the ball for teams and then fashion a chance because they're close to the goal. I think the problem is in midfield, because when I look at the midfield, you have Casemiro as the one holder that you're willing to play every game, and then it's a case where you said Bruno, Eriksen, Mount,
all attacking minded.
Correct. Do any of them have the physical presence to play as the 8?
Exactly.
Next to Casemiro.
Exactly.
Because the daily you want in a physical 8 is someone who can get up and down the pitch.
Yeah.
All of those players that I mentioned seem to be more like as forward roles or in the 10 position behind the striker. But it's kind of like a dilemma where you want to try to fit everybody in.
Yeah. But
it's going to leave your team a bit exposed defensively. Yeah. And that is the problem that Man U has. And I think until they sort out midfield, for example, I think it was even better last year. One of the reasons was because, Fred was still there.
Yeah, exactly.
And he could still give you some minutes. Because he is an 8. He can play next to Casemiro and function that and do all that running that Casemiro might not necessarily be able to do for 90 minutes. And give you that energy. And if you add it to McTominay, then it's okay. But McTominay last. I don't care how many last minute goals he has scored. McTominay seems to lack genuine quality.
Yeah.
Fred is not the best, in terms of quality, but Fred understands football. I'll put it that way. So even when Fred gives away the ball or something like that or makes a mistake, you can see what the intention was. And more often than not, it was the right intention. Just the execution was a bit off.
Right.
And I think that's what they're missing. You brought him Mason Mount because there is a school of thought or a group of people in the world who think that Mason Mount, who thought, actually, right? I have so many conversations, so many arguments on the phone about a man that's a Champions League winner. I've heard it all before. But again, Mason Mount, there is a school of people who thought that Mason Mount is a high quality player. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but again, my problem with Mason Mount is that I don't think his final decision or final pass is often good enough. I don't think decision making is often good enough. I don't think his off the ball movement is good enough. Knowing where to run, and which space to occupy to receive the ball or create space for your teammates. I don't think that's good enough. And he doesn't do enough defensively either. In the forward areas, it might look a bit different because when you're in weight position, you can just track back and your body to necessarily maybe deter the cross when coming in. But in the midfield, you saw the goal that they conceded in the Carling Cup game against Newcastle, where he got brushed aside really, really easily by Livramento.
Yeah, and he didn't even bust the gut.
He was busting the gut. It's just bad decision. Like take the yellow card.
Oh yeah. True. And to me, he played with Livramento at Chelsea at academy level. Like you should already know. You should already kind of be able to read what he's going to do in that instance. So therefore, like you said, rightfully, take the foul. But is this clip of him and his father when he signed for Man United talking about this is home and all that jazz, and it kind of riled me up, to be honest. So I have just been watching him so keenly because I just really wanted to see how he would do. And it just feels like I watched him in games. It was a goal that they conceded against Copenhagen too, where it felt like he had just come on and he wasn't even busting a gut to throw himself about the pitch or getting tight to people to stop crosses and stuff like that. And I just feel like I didn't get the sign-in, so I've been keenly watching to see if it will work out. But watching Mason Mount brings me to another issue that I have with Man United players, and that is their mentality. Now, there's this school of thought that they shouldn't have lost to Copenhagen. They were 2-0 up, playing well, even though they went out to 10 men. And I can understand the people that believe that because Copenhagen were poor. Man United were all over Copenhagen before that red card. That probably could have been 4 or 5 if Rashford had stayed on the pitch. But by the time Rashford got sent off, you could see the Copenhagen team lift, and you could almost see Man United team drop. It's like this is why a lot of what's going on then reminds me of Chelsea, where there's something up with the mentality of these players, I feel, as well. I saw this stat, starting to bring it back at Chelsea. I saw this stat that in 4 games against big teams this season, when Chelsea have gone behind 3 times, we have already picked up more points in these 4 games than we did all last season against the big sides. And that tells me that there's a shift in the mentality of these players. And when we were doing the mass exodus and the mass clear, and people were like, oh, why are you selling Havertz? Why are you selling Mo? Why are you selling this buddy? I'm like, but these are the same players that have been consistently that had on the side for the last 12 to 18 months. There needed to be a mentality clear at Chelsea, and I see the same issue at Man United. They just don't seem like they have what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have it in them to come back when they face adversity in games.
Right.
And I think that's all. You talk about how the team is poorly constructed in terms of looking at the balance. I also think it's poorly constructed with the type of characters that they have as well. And you see that with some of the off-field issues. You see that with, I don't want to go into the answering stuff because I think that has been cleared now or whatever. I think so.
I haven't heard, but...
But I see it with the Sancho situation. Yes, we've discussed, and I agree with you, when you're not a Ten Hag favorite, you can tell that you're on the outs. But refusing to apologize, you rather sit at home, get him a nice cushy salary. How long has he been? I think that came up when we went cricket, when they had CPL, because we were talking about it at the match.
Yeah.
It's months ago.
But check something, right? Oh, Lord. How do I want to put this? Okay. Remember time we had an argument. This was off air, by the way. We had an argument, and you felt as though I should apologize about something that I did wrong, or that you felt I did wrong, and I said to you, but I don't think I did anything wrong, so I'm apologizing, right? And we had a little standoff almost, right?
Forget that.
We had a little standoff off air. Good. So like, the thing is though, again,
you ended up apologizing though.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to say that apology was genuine.
No, it was genuine. But I'm trying to say though that as a man though, it might take you some time to get there, because some men will never get there, because
fair enough.
You, as a man, if you feel as if you did nothing wrong, stand 10 toes deep in it and apologizing. Like for example, you think Roy Keane would ever apologize to Fergie? Exactly, right? Because he's a man, like standing 10 toes down on this is my philosophy, this is what I believe, and I believe that I was right in this matter. No, again. Did I do anything? I think I did anything wrong by explaining why Sancho was omitted from the squad? That's what created the whole mess in the first place.
He was asked the question.
He was asked the question. He gave an answer. He said that he didn't think Sancho performed well in training or what's not.
Standard answer. I've heard a million times.
Something about the standard of his performance in training. Sancho then responded by saying, I don't think that's the case. I think you're making me a scapegoat. I have given my all on training pitch. Blah 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 blah. Okay, you know who's wrong, but in reflection though, who is wrong for me is Sancho, because I feel as though that's something that you could have gone to the manager, knock on his door and
tweet and had it pinned on his Twitter for weeks before he took it. It was weeks.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I feel as if Sancho made a wrong move by, speaking in the public domain. Right? You go to your manager, you tell him how you feel, and then you ask maybe what can I do to get in the team or get back in amongst the squad or what's not on a match day consistently. You can ask a question, right? No. And then even if you've already had a conversation and you feel as if you've been told something, you feel as if you're doing it, go ask again, but this I feel as though I've done this. Be a Danny Rose.
I was thinking the same thing,
Be a Danny Rose.
I was thinking the same thing.
But so I think that Sancho was wrong in that manner. But again, no Ten Hag decides that he's going to fight fire with fire. You need to apologize to me. He didn't specify whether or not the apology needs to be public or private. But sometimes the manager might come and say, well, he's going to be punished. We're going to do this in-house, right? And then you have a conversation with Sancho, and you try to get that common ground or that common understanding. Be civil about it almost. Whether or not that was done, I don't know. I can't really speculate. But it seems that if Ten Hag just said to him, "You need to apologize, and until you apologize, you won't play for Man United again." That's fine. And I'm fine if you said to him, you train by yourself, or you're training the reserves or the under 23s, whatever. That's fine too. But then, to have him not be alone in the dressing room, to have him not eat in the cafeteria.
That's taking it to and that's why I say it's symptomatic of the issues surrounding Man U. Like you said, Sancho was wrong in the first instance. But then where are you carrying all the childishness by basically banishing him from the facilities? That's silliness, in my opinion.
And again, and not only that, I don't think. Okay, I don't want me wrong about this, but if Man U does have a chief executive, or director of football, or even the damn owner,
somebody
should intervene by now. Yeah, exactly, and it doesn't have to be publicly known either.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Man U just feels rotten at the moment, and it's not only on the field; it's off the field in terms of how they're dealing with situations and everything. And I just sometimes wonder if they also need a clear out as well, not only in terms of players, but in terms of backroom staff, in terms of people at the top. I know there's a whole Glazer out movement, but it just feels like the club needs a reset, a fresh start. I mean, I'm hearing rumors that Varane and Casemiro might be off to Saudi next year. I don't know how I feel about that, because I still think that they are two of my better players. But maybe it's symptomatic of them starting the clear-out process. I don't know. But it just feels like a club that needs a fresh start and a reset.
But the thing is, and again, remember last week or whenever it was that we mentioned Man U, you were puzzled that Varane wasn't playing. I was picking Johnny Evans, and he's saying tactical.
Yeah, which was a lie, because more came out about that.
I said to you, I didn't hear anything. I don't know what more came out of it, but I said to you that clearly I know what he promised. I could see what he promised. Is that Ten Hag, whether Varane's performance isn't Ten Hag's, isn't good enough, and he's sending a message. Right. I need more from you.
Right, and it came out that Varane is upset that Ten Hag dropped him for the Manchester Derby and picked Johnny Evans instead.
He would be. He would be, and that's fair. But you're entitled to your opinion and how you feel. But like I said, that's clearly a case where he's saying, I need a higher level performance from you. Whatever performance Varane has been given this season, he wasn't satisfied with it, and that's why he made the change. It's just, it had nothing to do with tactics. Yeah. So like, does it need to be a clear out? I mean, and then we have the whole situation where even something that we don't talk about enough, even where you weren't playing Harry Maguire. And you didn't take the armband off for him last year. You left him with the armband. And then this year, before a ball was kicked, you took the armband off for him and gave it to Bruno Fernandes. I feel like, again, those are situations that can be handled better.
But you know that Harry Maguire is the person that made that public, though.
Which part?
In terms of, it wasn't made public that he was going to be stripped of the captaincy. Harry Maguire put out a statement saying, he's no longer going to be my captain, and yeah, he did.
I swear I heard the decision before he saw the statement.
I saw the statement. I think the statement came out before the decision was made official.
We should double check that, because I'm more sure I heard the statement first, and then I heard. I mean, they were in close proximity to each other.
We'll see.
But I think the statement came first, and then Maguire put out the statement saying that he was still continuing to give his best or what's not.
I guess we'll see. But even that, I mean, yeah, you say it could have been handled better, but did Maguire really need to put a statement about it? I don't
see anything wrong with putting a statement about it.
That you lose the captaincy? It just felt
no. I didn't say I lost the captaincy. I thought it was more like a reassurance that despite this, I'm still committed to the team. I
didn't feel it was that. I thought it was one of those things where you want people to know that Ten Hag did this to you.
Okay,
that's just my opinion.
But again, I
remember Ten Hag did it because Maguire was all set to be sold this summer. So
wait. I don't think that's the reason, because for me, if he can be sold, you take the captaincy off after the sale has gone through. We don't need to do it before. The captaincy got taken off of him because Ten Hag at that point in time didn't think that Maguire would have been in his starting 11 on a consistent basis. Which is something that I think he knew coming in.
Because the conversation where I told you I don't understand why he's keeping Maguire as captain. So then, what was the point of keeping him as captain last season for the whole season? Then
you were trying to avoid the decision, and you were hoping that eventually he would leave the club, which didn't materialize. Because if he leaves the club, it saves you the burden of having to remove the. I shouldn't call it. I don't know if it's a burden, but it saves you the burden of having to remove the captaincy from him. But again, that could have been handled better.
Yeah, you just feel that they're in these headlines for all the wrong reasons almost every week. Yeah.
And just to clarify, what I mean by better is, again, I don't think Maguire needed to be froze out the way he was. We had times last year where players that can't remember a specific example, but what's his name? Luke Shaw was playing centre back ahead of Maguire last season.
Yeah, he was definitely trying to send a message.
Exactly.
So then my thing is that,
and that is the point when he was your club captain.
Yeah, and my thing about it is the same way you want to rotate now because you have these injuries. You could have rotated to avoid these injuries because Varane and Martinez were significantly overplayed last season. So then instead of trying to be passionate and send messages, just rotate your side. I mean, I'm not the biggest Harry Maguire fan.
Because, like, for me, I trust that whoever these sports science people are at Man United would have been giving him the necessary information about whether or not players can play. And oftentimes when you're playing, when getting results rather, or you're playing about whoever way you want to frame it, sometimes you find that a lot of managers don't necessarily make a lot of changes necessarily, especially when it gets towards the second half of the season.
Yeah, fair enough.
People do tend to keep the same side. The last thing I will say about Mayu is that, again, I think they got the cap. Eventually, he got there, took the armband off of Maguire, but then he got the appointment of a new captain wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah,
definitely. I know who I think should be Man United captain.
Who's that?
He can't play right now, so he probably still won't have the armband. But Martinez, I thought Martinez was clearly natural leader of the team.
Yeah,
last season.
I mean, Ole gave Maguire the captaincy in his first season, so
immediately when Maguire came, Maguire got the armband.
So yeah, I don't. Bruno's too passionate. He's too passionate to be a leader. I think he whines, he moans, he complains. I mean, I guess he steps up in big moments for them. He will pop up with the out goal and stuff, but his attitude.
Men are struggling against the less teams.
It's sure.
Like, that's all he did. That's all he's done so far.
But the attitude is successful.
I mean, we don't know. Maybe different inside the confines of the dressing room. Maybe. But again, I would have gone with Martinez. Yeah. I would have probably opted for Luke Shaw as the deputy. If you were asking me. But he went for Bruno. I could have seen it coming a mile away because I feel as if because Maguire's first year at Man United wasn't bad.
It wasn't.
He didn't perform bad. I think what happened to Maguire was that the burden of the captaincy started way down. And what I mean by that is that the team started to make a lot of defensive mistakes between him and De Gea. Because you got a guy with like De Gea who can't play with the ball if he or who's not comfortable doing it. And what happened then was that a lot of mistakes came between them in tandem, which meant Maguire then lost confidence. Added to that, you brought in, again, like you said, chasing marquee, high-profile signings to be in the headlines. You brought in Cristiano Ronaldo and other players who were big names, Varane, for example, and then he starts to feel pressure not only about the captaincy, but for his position. And I feel as if it was a case where his role, he felt a little bit insecure in his role. I honestly believe that's what happened. And the performances started to go down. And then, so he apparently, he goes on social media, obviously, sees things. People started making. You remember Maguire was like even referenced in the African House Assembly. You saw that?
I can't remember that.
If I find it, I'll send you again.
Do that
on Instagram. Seriously, there was a politician that said, that made an analogy about Maguire and Man United.
Interesting.
Anyhow,
well, that actually kind of leads us nicely into just a quick thing we're going to touch on. I remember a few weeks ago, I took issue with Harry Maguire's mother coming out and releasing a public statement on behalf of her son and defending her son and, saying that this and that, her next. Then we have a similar issue with Aaron Ramsdale's father doing a whole podcast interview about the treatment that his son is getting at Arsenal and by Arteta. And I'll say the same thing I said to you. I'm not Maguire's biggest fan, but I'll say the same thing in this situation as I said to you about the Maguire situation. And I think Mason Mount brother did the same thing too. And Mason Mount was struggling, still struggling, but when he first started and people were on his back, his brother came out making a statement like, these footballers' family members need to just shut up. Like, I'm sorry. My mother or father ain't going to put out a statement if I working at a place and they treating me bad. That's for me to handle as an adult. I'm not saying you can't defend your child, but it just almost feels like it feels so silly. I remember we had a similar conversation about Shamar Hetmeyer and his wife too. And I feel like these are grown men. They don't need you to fight their battles for them. And I think you're making the situation worse for your children by coming out and releasing these comments and statements, because it makes it seem as if they can't fight their battles, and it makes it seem like they're almost complaining to mommy and daddy for mommy and daddy to come and fix the issue. So just for context, I actually took a screenshot of one of the quotes that he would have made from that interview. He said, "You just have to look at it personally," and I'm probably saying too much. I mean, at least he acknowledged it, right?
Right.
Aaron is going to be the cup goalkeeper, and Davaraya is going to be the main man unless something happens, an injury or a sending off. And Aaron's got to live with that, and he's living with that, even though he's not being told about it by anybody. Squads evolve all the time. Nobody's going to be there forever. Davaraya has not pulled a tree so far. Let's say he's not going to, even though the way it's been done, in my eyes, it's been wrong. Aaron's lost his smile, and it's difficult to see him there. So that was just a snippet, but he's basically hitting out at Arteta for how he's been handling the situation. Basically saying that his son has been dropped, he hasn't been told XYZ about his starting role or whatever, and it's an issue. No, I don't think either of us are Aaron Ramsdale's biggest fans. We've had, thoughts about him and stuff. If I saw Chelsea being linked to him recently, and I'm like, please no thanks. No thanks. No thanks. I'm good. I'm good. But I do think that Arteta has not handled the situation well. I do understand why he went for another goalkeeper, but in terms of how he's been coming out in the media and talk about he can rotate, nobody rotates number one goalkeepers.
That's not necessarily true.
Come on, Andrew.
I've seen it before.
Okay, where? Who?
Marissa did.
Okay, but it's
a couple years ago.
Well, who? Ter Stegen.
I can't remember who the other keeper was. I think it might have been Claudio Bravo at the time. Somebody.
Claudio Bravo. I think I know what you mean, but it was clear. But it was clear that when Ter Stegen came in, Bravo was still number one. And it was clear that Ter Stegen was going to be eventually number one. And he was rotating them because Bravo was going to be eventually on his way out. But you've never seen a case where...
But you don't need to do that either. Because for me, like, the best way to do it is, like, if you have a keeper that's supposed to come in and you definitely think that keeper's going to be number one, you make him number one. You don't rotate. When you say rotate, I mean if you're playing Copa del Rey games or Carabao Cup, for example. But the rotation was Champions League versus La Liga. That was a rotation.
Right, but that's not what Arteta doing, though.
Arteta doing the same thing? Arteta playing...
Davaraya is playing in Champions League and the Premier League.
And the Premier League, right? Right, which is two big competitions, and Ramsdale's playing cup.
But Ramsdale has been your number one. And what his father is saying is that there's been no communication. Look, I agree that there's been little to no communication based on what I've read. But he can't be doing interviews on podcasts on his son's behalf. It doesn't look good.
When you all say no communication, what do you mean? You want Arteta to come and declare that Raya is his number one?
Yeah, at least there's clarity of the situation. You don't think clarity is better than just feeling that you get tossed aside and there's no explanation or anything? Because that's what you can see has happened. There's clearly not been an explanation that, okay, your form has been XYZ or whatever. And we discussed it. Ramsdale overperformed last season based on what we've seen of him. His form only tailed off when everybody's form in Arsenal tailed off when the pressure was on.
Right.
So I feel like it's a bit disrespectful to do that, not have a conversation at least with him and say, okay, this is the expectation. This is what I'm doing and whatever. And then it's up to Ramsdale then to make a decision, stay or go. But don't just drop him and not say anything. But Arteta is our manager, though.
I want to preface my comments very, very carefully here. I do not believe that there was never a conversation in terms of...
you think his father's lying?
No. I don't think his father's lying. But, okay. This is how I think in conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same conversation Arteta had with the media.
Mm-hmm.
I am bringing in a new goalkeeper, a number one. Based on the game, based on my feeling, I will pick who I want to pick. I feel, so it's not one where he said, definitively that you're no number two. But I feel the action speed longer than words. Like you said, Ray's playing Premier League and Champions League, he's playing Carabao Cup. What more communication you want?
But it's disrespectful, though.
Is it?
I I think so.
Why?
Okay, you teach English.
Mm-hmm.
Common decide, yeah, we can hire a new English teacher to teach exactly the same classes as Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
You come in,
Mm-hmm.
and principal tell you, I mean, this is never going to happen in real life, but I just use it as an example.
Go ahead.
Principal come in, yeah, Andrew, don't teach 4-1 today. I put in this, but you teach 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
You say, all right. But then you realize every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you ain't teaching 4-1 no more. You get relegated to subbing for another teacher or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you have no clarity now over your role as a teacher.
And again, I don't think that's what happened. Sorry, please wait. Like for even you can
speak louder than words.
Exactly, but using that scenario, but you gonna rephrase it. Okay. How I put it this way? You said that the person bringing a new teacher, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And tell me a new teacher coming. Mm-hmm. Right? The teacher gonna be teaching somebody class or sharing a class with you.
They tell you so. I tell you this. They come in and say, Andrew, don't teach 4-1 today. He can teach 4-1 today.
I don't think so. Wait, so you trying to tell me that Ramsdale? Sorry. Wait, first. So are we saying that Ramsdale should have gone ahead up and said, well, I signed a new keeper before the keeper was saying? That's the part that happened?
Ramsdale should
have been told.
Should have been told, okay, you and David Raya are going to compete for number 1, but he's my preferred choice.
Oh, but he's my preferred choice.
Yes.
That part that you don't want to hear.
Have clarity.
Or Ramsdale don't want to hear.
Because it's clear there's no clarity. Ramsdale is just finding himself on the bench.
But this is the part that got me. This is the part where I disagree. I think that there has been clarity. He's found himself on the bench for a while now.
Oh boy.
The clarity come.
It's only been 12 matches.
Like, you could have said that. You could have said that in August when the season no start. He has found himself on the bench. Like you said, 12 consecutive match days. How much more clarity you want?
Not 12 consecutive, but hey.
If I let you have for 12 weeks, I don't call you. You want more clarity? You want me to tell you that he want me come and he want me to say a message?
It's disrespectful. You wouldn't want.
It is disrespectful. Well,
it's disrespectful. But that wasn't the point of the segment. The point of the segment was his father is not helping him by putting out this interview, because to me, it's where at least Maguire's mother was kind of defending her son. Yes, he's defending his son, but he's also hitting out at his son's employers at the same time. You can't do that.
The only problem I have. Actually, no, I have a lot of problems with it, right? I agree, we should not play it out. But I look at it from, it's going to add more to the headlines that's already been created about Arsenal's goalkeeping situation.
Every time David Raya makes a mistake, it's already a headline. Right. So then, with his father now coming out, and I've even seen some media people coming out and saying, oh, Ramsdale has done nothing wrong. Like, Ramsdale is English too, so he'll have the backing of the media. So it's like the headlines are already there, and he's just fanning the flames.
Honestly, right? And I'll leave it here. Honestly, I feel as if, because not like, I honestly believe whenever a high-profile goalkeeper is signed, right? You kind of know that this person is going to be preferred number 1, or this person coming in as number 1 at least. When Alisson was signed, nobody had to go and tell Mignolet,
But that's different. But there's a clear difference in quality between Alisson and Mignolet. Is there a clear difference in quality right now between David Raya and Aaron Ramsdale?
If it's based on last season, to me, no, it's not much of a difference. This is the problem I have with it. The problem I have with it was more like a case where you create a situation, because if there's no clear superiority among the keepers,
why do it and
why have both?
Exactly.
Right?
Similar to the Havertz signing for me too.
But the thing for me is, though, I understand what you're saying about, okay, if it's a case, right, that is a situation where I start each match day, both goalkeepers have no clarity about who will be starting, right?
Well, I think that's the case.
That's what I'm saying. That way, there is clarity. If you said to me that from match to match, like, start the what I tried to sell, because that was what he was trying to sell at first. If you said to me on Saturday when we play Fulham, Ramsdale and Burrs, and then the following week or 2 weeks from now or next week, we don't know if Ramsdale to start again, it might be Raya, and it was like a topsy-turvy thing like that, then I would say there's no clarity. You know what I'm saying? And then I would say, well, that's kind of disrespectful, that's kind of off-putting for both goalkeepers. But for me, when consistently now, in the, what we call the more serious tournaments that Arsenal are trying to win, which would be the Premier League and the Champions League, right? Raya gets a nod. Then Raya's number 1. They ain't got, you know what I mean? It's like, unless Raya get injury or suspension, don't look for you when you're starting sheet, Like, he still got time to make a decision. in January, you make a decision on whether or not you want to stay or whether or not you want to go.
If you leave, I just hope it's not to Chelsea.
I think this quote just creates headlines, and I think this quote is just going to...
It's not even a quote. The man do a whole podcast
a whole podcast interview, but it's a quote that you read.
Mad.
And my issue with Ramsdale, because I think Ramsdale needs to take a bit of accountability too.
Agreed.
I don't think Ramsdale had no clue that this was coming. He knew. He probably spoke to his dad about this countless times, and what his dad is doing right now is expressing how he feels.
Exactly.
And the problem that he gonna have is if Arteta decided to be petulant and feel a way about it.
And Arteta does have that tendency in him as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he will go on overguard serving, as we were saying, Barbadian.
Well, if he leaves, I just hope it's not to Chelsea, because no thanks. So quick leaderboard update before we get a word from our sponsors and move on to cricket. I was telling you this week, our leaderboard predictions have...
I was going to tell you, right, to just leave out leaderboard.
Why?
Because, well, not leave it out completely. I mean this week. Because since we not making predictions, got
okay, fair enough. So you want to do the update next week?
Yeah, do it next week.
No problem. Yeah. Probably got a hot date later. You gotta watch after. Anyways,
quick word from our sponsors at Whole Health Pharmacy.
Whole Health Pharmacy, located in Jordan's Complex, Speightstown, St. Peter, carries a variety of products to take care of you and your health. Essential oils, muscle rubs, and the run-of-the-mill medications. And definitely don't forget your vitamins. Vinci sea salt, air humidifiers, tumblers, and women's havens pads too. We got it all for you. Don't forget your Barbados and natural Vinci snacks. So for sure you're gonna keep coming back. Ever hear about structured water? Well, tell your son, tell your daughter. Whole Health Pharmacy. More than a pharmacy, we take care of you and your health.
And we're back. You know, we got hurry along so Andrew can make his hot date later.
We get me in trouble. Keep going.
But the hot date could be with the girlfriend.
Yeah, but she might not think that. Because you see, when you leave it up to interpretation, right? That's what lands someone in hot water.
Okay.
Keep going though. I know you don't mean any harm. Keep going.
I don't. So cricket, first semi-final tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Second semi-final, I think, Thursday, which means the final might be Sunday. I hate my finals play on Sundays, you know. It's so frustrating. Anyways, so first semi-final, New Zealand, India. Thoughts?
India clear favorites. Do I give New Zealand a prayer? I think New Zealand has a chance. Because I believe in, and I hope I said nothing before that undermines this. I believe in the quality of New Zealand in terms of their players. I think that their players are good enough that they could be India, but India are just riding a wave of momentum, and anything other than an India win for someone to predict is have a big pair.
That's true.
Yeah, that's like India right now.
That's like predicting that Chelsea would get anything from Man City on Sunday.
Not on that level, but yeah, I think
it's pretty similar.
Oh, right.
But I agree with you. I think India, I mean, their entire top six has made runs. Everybody in their top six, top five has made hundreds except one player. That's a crazy stat. And their bowling looks on song. But I agree. I think if there's one team that can beat India, it's New Zealand. I think New Zealand have the players. They're so consistent. And I think New Zealand probably made the highest score against India actually so far in the World Cup. That 280 something. So I do think that New Zealand can and probably should have made more. But India bowled well in the last 10 in that game. I think India are clear favorites, but it's a World Cup semi-final, anything can happen. And they played each other in the semi-final last World Cup too, and New Zealand came out on top. So, but this wasn't at home in front of thousands of people that chanting Kohli, Kohli, Kohli.
Right.
But yeah, I do think India will win that one. I just hope it's a good game, a good close game, and New Zealand give a good account. Honestly, I would love if New Zealand win. I like India, but come on, New Zealand have made 4 or 5 consecutive semi-finals. I mean, they may go win something at some stage, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like New Zealand win, but I can't see anybody getting past India right now. Then Wednesday is South Africa, Australia.
Thursday.
Right, because tomorrow is Wednesday.
Right.
South Africa, New Zealand. South Africa,
Australia.
What do you mean?
South Africa, Australia is their
South Africa, Australia
semi-final.
Where do you think that was gonna go?
Wait, who won the group stage encounter? Australia did, right?
South Africa.
South Africa beat Australia in group stage encounter. Oh, I can lean, for whatever reason, right? I kind of lean towards South Africa to win this one. Especially if the batters get going. I think that, well, if South Africa bats first and their batters get going, I think that they could get a total that puts them over the site.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, to me, the game be won or lost with either how well Australia's space attack does or how well South Africa's batting attack does.
I agree. Because I do think my same concerns over Australia from the beginning tournament remain. That middle order is brittle. And I think they have a big call to make with Maxwell coming back in and Marcus Stoinis fit and Mitchell Morris scoring runs. They have to leave Smith or Labuschagne.
Right.
And I know they're not going to, but it should probably be Steve Smith because Labuschagne is in better form. But they probably won't.
Yeah, they probably won't.
And you can't have the two of them in the middle order, in my opinion. Right. But I do think the only reason I would give Australia the edge is because South Africa in a major...
They've had a history of collapses.
But South Africa, for me, have the better team.
Right. I noticed that as well.
Yeah. Better batting, better bowlers. Because Australia bowlers, barring Adam Zampa, who has been great, I think Australia fast bowling have kind of been off color. I mean, they've conceded 388 against New Zealand. Bangladesh scored over 300 against them, who have been trashed for the whole tournament. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I think, like you said, the key battle is Australian bowlers versus South Africa batsmen. And this will be like the 6th time that they play each other in the last couple of months because they play a 5-match series, they're playing group stages, so it'll be interesting. So we both predict India to win the final on Sunday.
Right. So India South Africa final, if our predictions hold true.
Yeah. South Africa need to bat first to have a prayer in that game.
Yeah, I'll predict. Okay, no, I'll predict India to win the final, win the whole thing, the whole shebang.
No, I think it could be South Africa or New Zealand time.
Okay.
Not really, I just hoping.
You might be right.
I just hoping that is their time, but I think I'm looking forward to the games. Update: England has qualified for the Champions Trophy. They win the last 2 games against Netherlands and Pakistan.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
I know they beat Netherlands. I didn't realize that I had another game after that.
I think they really beat Netherlands because of Ben Stokes, because they were struggling in that game
they were.
Well.
Yeah, I saw a bit of that. Yeah.
But yeah, they qualified. They do. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to the semifinals, and I think the final on Sunday should be one interesting ride. Yeah. Anything else we need to add?
No.
Our producer told us we spent a lot of time on football.
Should be a part of it.
I told him that's what's happened when I introduced a Man United segment for you to get your teeth in.
And I want the people to know that I did not speak about Man U by myself. You said a fair share too. Yeah, you did. When you watch it back, you'll see that you contributed. I thought it was City Chelsea. City Chelsea was a well.
I don't know. What to say about that game, but I will close by saying this: I'm very proud of my side. I think that even though we're 10th in table, I can see the signs of progress. But my problem with Chelsea, consistency. Right. We got Newcastle after international break, which I hear Christopher Nkunku is going to be back for. I think he will make a great difference to this side, especially in terms of goals. But I just need to see Chelsea know they played 2 good games in a row. I need to see that become 3, 4, 5, 6 games.
Well, once again, I want to close by saying that there was no need to, tell us that you're proud of Chelsea or that you feel good about it. We can't see, saying, she's wearing her colors tonight. We can clearly see that you were, in.
Ask me whose name is on the back.
I saw whose name is on the back. I entered behind you, so I was able to see. I don't think the public here know. But it's her favorite chubby boy, Reece James.
Captain Fantastic.
Captain who? Get the armband. Let's not throw these monikers about so, carefree.
Whatever.
But thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. As always, please share and subscribe. You can follow us at the Dugout Podcast.
Yes.
Shout out to Spirit Led Studios and Shop.
Whole Health Pharmacy, correct. You can follow me at Drew9106 and Marissa at Marissa Simone91. You can know my handle by now.
Do you know me?